So I've been in a relationship for 8 years. I know the title says 10, but 10 just sounds better than 8. And I've made lots of mistakes, learned lots of lessons. I'm sure my fiance can attest to that. I've also learned a lot. And due to that experience that I think is very valuable, I want to share this experience with you. So that is what I'm going to do in this video. So I'm going to try and squeeze almost 9 to 10 years of relationship advice into this short video and hopefully provide as much value as I can to you. So let's do it. And just as a disclaimer, of course, since I'm a man, there's going to be dating advice from the point of view of a man. However, I think this could definitely help anyone's relationship in general. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, firstly, let's talk about communication, because communication is one of the largest and most important parts of any healthy relationship. And it's something I have to admit was not my strong point for a very long time. I'm someone who, can be quite in here, I don't always communicate my thoughts, and I learned quickly that in relationships, that is a big no-no, not saying how you feel, it doesn't really make relationships easy. It makes them a lot harder. So that's something I learned the hard way. As I said, communication is like the foundation of any healthy relationship. It's quite obvious, but you can't read each other's minds. So the only way to know what each other are thinking and what each other want is to ask each other questions and talk about things. So that means you're gonna have to have those awkward conversations, those conversations that you've been avoiding maybe, those conversations that you kind of been dreading. You're gonna have them, because if you don't, your relationship is destined to fail. It's that simple. And you have to kind of make a deal with each other to not lie. And I know that's pretty hard in relationships, especially modern relationships. We all tell those little white lies and stuff like that. But you have to kind of make a pact with each other to not lie. Of course, that's quite basic. I'm sure most people do that and then lie. But you have to have that trust with each other, because you don't want to be in a relationship with someone who you don't actually trust what they're gonna say. The truth is, communication is a massive way to kind of ensure that there's some safety in the relationship, especially from the point of view of a man. Women need to feel safe, and the way that they feel safe is when they feel like they know what's on your mind. That's why they always ask, what are you thinking? What's in your mind? Because they don't feel safe around someone who they feel like isn't, communicating with them effectively. And that's something, again, that I had to learn. I wasn't really familiar with how it was to be around women, and I wasn't always the best, as I said, at communicating. And I found out very quickly that if you don't communicate what's up here, she's gonna start, creating her own version of what's up there for you. And it's gonna be, the worst case scenario. So I think it's better that you tell her what you're thinking rather than keeping it all to yourself, basically. Okay, and secondly, a major part of any healthy relationship is having patience with each other. Patience is something that I know this generation lacks a lot with the instant gratification kind of, lifestyle that a lot of us live. But in order to have a healthy relationship, you need to have some patience with each other. Now, that's not just patience in the short term, like when they're kind of annoying you or making you a bit upset. It's also the patience in the long term of being, okay, this person is a fully fledged human being that can change. And in order for them to go through the changes that they're gonna go through, I have to be patient. Sometimes they're not gonna be, the final product that, you saw in them. That potential that people love to talk about. That potential may take a long time to reach. And if you're not patient and you're willing to grow with this person, you're gonna end up regretting it, when you leave and then they become that person in the future. Of course, you shouldn't be staying with someone just based on their potential only, but you know what I mean? Because the truth is that your relationship is gonna change over time. Like the relationship that you have in the first couple months of your relationship, basically the honeymoon stage, this does not represent what your actual relationship is gonna be like at all. So if anyone who's in the, honeymoon, puppy love kind of stage right now, just know that this is not how the relationship's gonna feel in the long term. So don't set your expectations to be so high where it's gonna be just so crazy, amazing every time we see each other. There's gonna be some days where you're not in the best mood, and you're gonna see this person and they're gonna do something to annoy you, and then you're gonna have to work with yourself to have patience and be like, okay, as I said in the first point, to communicate. Say, okay, babe, I'm not in a good mood today. Do you mind if you don't do that? Even things like that, it's uncomfortable in real life, but it's very important. Okay, thirdly, it is dealing with rejection. Rejection is a massive part of relationships, and a part that we don't really talk about. Because if we're being honest, your partner kind of rejects you quite often. And I'm not talking about in the traditional sense of rejection where it's oh, you're kind of trying to make sexual advances and they're oh no, I'm tired. Not that kind of shit, but that does happen as well. But it's more they kind of we reject each other very casually all the time. And the more you do this, the harder it is to maintain that relationship, because you start to build some resentment towards your partner. And let me stop being vague and actually explain what I mean. So as we know, as humans, we're not always on the same wavelength as our partners. Sometimes we're in different moods. Some people are high, some people are low, etc, etc. Something as simple as let's say you're walking in the park or something and your partner says, oh, look at that bird over there. If you actually take the time to pause whatever you're doing and interact with them, and observe that bird and they say, oh wow, yeah, that's a really cool bird, or what kind of bird do you think that is? That little act you just did, although it's not a lot to you, that builds connections for later, that builds intimacy. And when you get into the pattern of rejecting, these little attempts to connect with your partner, it erodes your connection more and more, and before you know it, your partner is going to stop trying to connect with you because they get so used to being rejected. And you also need to be aware of attachment styles, because the truth is we all have different styles of attachment, different ways that we are used to being loved, and which stems from the way that we're loved by our parents. And it usually falls into the two categories of anxious or avoidant attachment. Understanding how you want to be loved is crucial in any relationship, because if you don't know how you like to be loved, then how is your partner supposed to know? If you haven't taken any time to do research and understand yourself more, how do you expect your partner to just understand you? So right now, if you're unaware of whatever style of attachment you have, I really do suggest you do some research and try and figure it out and understand, how you've been conditioned to want and go after love, because it will bring a lot of context to your relationship. Because the goal is to kind of help each other become more securely attached, where one person's not anxious about their relationship and other one's not kind of just avoiding talking about the main topics and things like that. You both want to make sure your relationship feels secure and you're both having your needs met. And by the way, guys, it's not gay or feminine to try and understand your partner's point of view and understand how they want to be loved. I know there's a lot of shame in men when it comes to doing things that are typically feminine, like understanding your feelings, which is like a basic human right in my opinion. But I want you to ignore that old-fashioned way of living, because it does not work. Just look at the relationships of your uncles, your aunties, maybe even your parents. All the traditional men, they're not having like the most fulfilling relationships, are they? They're in loveless marriages where they don't understand each other. I'm going on a rant, but you know what I mean. Okay, you also want to make making effort something that is just very normal and just a part of your relationship. Because by doing the bare minimum, although you may feel like you're getting away with it, in the long term it has consequences. Because your relationship will just turn into something that is just barely alive. Like they'll have no actual life to it. It will just be on life support basically. There's no prospect of it like growing, evolving. It will just be like stagnant, and eventually it will end. And when I say effort, I don't mean having to do these elaborate breaking the bank every week and spending so much money on each other, all that kind of stuff. What I mean is just making effort, like making sure your partner knows how much you care about them, how much you love them, how much you value them. Because as humans, all we want to do is to be seen and to be accepted and loved. And if that's something that you can provide to your partner, whether that's through acts of service, whether that's through saying positive things to them, whether that's gift giving in some senses, whatever it is, making effort to do that, it's gonna make your relationship so much more healthy than just sitting back and being we haven't argued in a week, so I guess we're doing alright. And you also want to acknowledge that you are on the same team. So I know in relationships it can be quite tempting to have that kind of back and forth, me versus you, right and wrong kind of arguments and disagreements, but you have to try to resist the temptation as much as you can, because it'll get you nowhere. Let's be honest. Like when you're right in an argument, what happens after that? It's just awkward. Like it just I don't know, the vibe is just off. It's pointless. You have to realize that it's not you versus her, it is each other against the problem, against the issue. And the goal is to try and approach disagreements with compassion and the desire to understand where they're coming from, not to prove them wrong or just to show how smart you are. Without being authentic and vulnerable in your relationships are basically pointless. What's the point of having this intimate relationship with someone if you're not able to actually be yourself? Because let's be honest, especially for us guys, putting on an act is exhausting. Like having to mask and pretend that you're someone different in your relationship is exhausting, and doing that in the long term will lead you to crashing out one day. Honestly, you just crash out and show who you really are, and it's gonna be ugly. So the sooner that you're able to be your true self around your partner, the quicker that you'll be able to know that if they're the right one for you or not. Because let's be honest, if you have to put on an act around your partner to feel like they love you, then they don't love you. And this is something I know a lot of men struggle with, because we have been indoctrinated and taught for basically the whole of human existence that as men, being vulnerable is weak and it's a turn off for women. I've got to be honest, maybe this is the case in hookup culture, but in actual long-term health relationships, this is a lie. In long-term relationships, being vulnerable with your woman is extremely valuable, because it allows her to see that you are a fully fledged human being with emotions and feelings. You're not just macho man, make decisions, use logic, alpha male. That's not a real person, that's a persona. And if you honestly think women can't see through that, you think they're a lot stupider than they actually are. Everyone can see through your act, bro. No one believes it. Because as I said before, your woman wants to feel safe in your relationship, and the way that she can feel safe is that she feels that she's able to express her emotions to you without you judging judging her because you openly express yours. And of course, I'm not saying that you have to be like crying, you know, about your day with your girlfriend all the time. I'm not saying that at all. But I don't feel this need to try and like hide when you're actually feeling down or when you're actually feeling even like good. Because I think that's something men struggle with as well, to actually express positive emotions around their partner, because there's some sort of shame barrier about that. But honestly, the quicker that you're able to get rid of that shame barrier and be yourself, the more fulfilling your relationship's gonna be. Okay, I'll stop it there, because if I'm honest, I could probably go on for like an hour on this. So let me know in the comments if you found this valuable and if you want me to do some more videos on this, because I definitely can. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.